What inspired you to write this novel?
Well, I spent a year working in the domestic violence sector, and I wasn't on the front line. I was kind of in the department that tries to secure the money, and I realised that the money wasn't there, and that the knowledge and the awareness wasn't there, and I was kind of furious all the time. And I'd always wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to write a novel, and this was the only thing that I felt I could write about, because it kind of obsessed me. So it all kind of came pouring out, all this sort of anger and confusion that I'd felt over so long, turned itself into a novel.
You talk about being furious. I was furious reading this novel. So how did what you saw feed into this, and was it difficult to write?
It was, what I saw was kind of the daily reality and experience of women trying to navigate a system that didn't believe them and that treated them as unworthy witnesses to their own lives. And in a sense, that made it very easy to write, because this sort of passion and rage that I felt had been building up for so long, that when it came to write it, I actually felt a relief. It was sort of like releasing a pressure valve. And I actually was able to kind of move on with my life a bit more. And I still care about the issues, but I don't sort of think about them in the middle of the night in the same way.
What made you want to kind of mix almost a crime fiction with more dramatic literary fiction? How did those two come together?
I wanted to write it as crime fiction, partly because domestic violence is a crime, and it's often not treated as a crime. It's often treated as a private matter. So I wanted to take the genre that deals with crimes, infringements on society, and turn that spotlight on something that is so often treated as a family matter that goes on behind closed doors. But at the same time, I wanted to write in a more literary way, because I feel like a lot of the time the issues that more specifically affect women are treated as sort of niche and specific, and the sort of stuff for literature is big and universal and transcendent. And I felt that women's lives are worthy of literary examination. So the two came together in this kind of cross-genre way.
So because of that, the book is really intriguing, and you want to find out the whodunit part. But at the same time, it is a difficult read, and I suppose especially for women who see this kind of domestic violence happening. What is it that you want readers to take away from this book?
In a sense, I don't feel that it's my job as a novelist to tell readers what they should think. Otherwise, I would have written a political tract. But I have had a lot of readers come away with the same reaction that you just voiced, which is that the book made them very angry. And I feel that what fiction can do is activate our emotions in a way that something that's more sort of factual and scientific can't. So I want readers to feel with the characters, and I want them to sort of take the emotional truth of what it means to live with abuse and what it means to survive, and to incorporate that in the way that they think about people and the way that they perceive victimhood. There's such a strong idea of what makes a good victim and what makes a bad victim, and often that comes from not going into the psychology of the person who's inside that experience. And I hope that by putting themselves in that person's shoes, the reader can apply that to their sort of critical understanding of the world, and possibly in some cases of their own stories.
How did you come up with these characters? Because there's more than one voice in your book. You've got some of the women who are at the shelter, you've got the girl who dies, Katie, and you've got the detective. What made you decide to have multiple voices in this book?
Because there's no one story, and there's no one way of experiencing domestic violence. It's a multifaceted problem, and it manifests in so many forms. And I was so fed up with the idea that there's one image of victimhood, and isn't true. 1 in 4 women in the UK experiences domestic violence. So these are our friends, our family, women we admire, women we work with. So I wanted to give a full range to that experience.
And then just, this is your debut novel. How does it feel to have that out there and the response from people?
It is peculiar because I'm not out there because of lockdown. So that by the time that the book was out, all the bookshops were closed. So that's not quite what you expect out of your first novel. But it's been wonderful. I've had such extraordinary responses from readers. I've had people getting in touch to say that the most important responses I've had have been the ones that from people who said something like this happened to me, and this is an honest representation of what that felt like. And that goes beyond any book sales or any critical responses. That's what you long for and aim for as a writer, is that honesty and that connection. So that's just been extraordinary. And when you work on something for sort of 3 years without putting it out there, you kind of lose perspective on it. So to have that validation and that sense that it did land and did connect is extraordinary.
And just finally, are you working on anything new? What's next for you?
I am working on a second novel, and I've got an idea for a third. I describe myself as a bit of a feminist hermit crab. So I think that what I'm always going to be interested in is sort of going into genres and unpicking the ways in which they maybe have historically treated women and trying to shake that up a bit.
Wonderful. Jessica, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.